What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As y'all know, this is the Football Express, and I'm your host, Charles Simmons. And starting today, I'll be dropping a new series called the Football Express Summer Camp. Now, in this series, we'll be doing schedule predictions, analyzing the team, talking about the biggest concerns, their biggest strengths, where I see this team at the end of the season, or where I see this team at least by the midway point. Because a lot of things can change by week 6 of the season, just like a lot of things can change before week 1 of the season. Now, when it comes to talking about the teams, my goal is to try to talk about all 134 teams in the FBS and move on to the FCS. Now, with only 2 months left until the first day of college football, that's going to be a tough task. Now, I might not be able to cover all 134, but my goal is to try to at least do that and then get ready for the first day of college football, being August 24th. Now, this series will end August 23rd. I'll start a new series August 24th, and when it gets time for that announcement on the new series, I'll go ahead and make that announcement. Now, like I said a couple seconds ago, this series will be covered over a 2-month span. It will be covering schedule predictions, analyzing the team as a whole. We'll talk about some recruiting rankings, how they utilize the transfer portal, what teams I think are going to really make an impact going into next season, what teams I think are really going to struggle, what teams I think have a shot at the national championship, some dark horses. We'll be talking about all of that in this summer camp series. Now, I'll give you a little insight on the posting schedule. It'll be 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, I also have my Madden series. I've had some technical issues on my computer, so I have not been able to upload any of the Madden series videos. I am getting those fixed. I'll hopefully have that put back out, and that will be dropping every Tuesday and Thursday. And then I'll have my main series dropping Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Saturdays and Sundays aren't going to get any videos until the start of the season. So now that I kind of gave you a rundown, FYI, this video will be a little bit longer than all the others. All the others are probably not going to run over 15. This one will more than likely run over 15 minutes. But after this video, you will be getting shorter videos, and you'll be getting about 2 or 3 of them a day every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, plus the 1 video a day on Tuesday and Thursday. So now, with that out the way, in today's video, we're going to go ahead and start off with probably one of the hottest teams in college football, my beloved, my favorite. Nobody can beat them. I'll just put that out there right now. University of Georgia. I think they are the best team. Now, we're going to talk about it. As a fan, they're the best team in college football without a doubt. I ride and die for that team. I will go to bat for that team. No matter what the situation is, I'll go to bat for that team. That's my team. But I will be a little realistic when it comes to talking about the University of Georgia. Now, what I would like to do is come out here and say they the best. Ain't nobody going to beat them. They one of ones. But I can't just do that. So I got to talk about them honestly. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this. Yes, I said further ado. I'm trying to use some new vocabulary to make my videos a little bit better. But without all that out the way, you got the rundown on what this series is going to be like. We're going to start with the University of Georgia today. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting with Georgia, we're going to go ahead and talk about the recruiting class and their transfer portal class. And when you look at the recruiting now, the past couple years, since Curry really came over, they've had one of the best recruiting classes in probably all of college football. They're always in the top 5, top 3 when it comes to having recruiting classes. You're not going to see them out of the top 5. Like this year alone, they ranked number 1, and in 2025, right now, they rank number 4. They have 28 recruits coming in from the 2024 recruiting class, 5 5-stars, 19 4-stars, an average composite rating of 93.6. And then in 2025, they got the number 4 as of right now, running with 13 recruits, a 93.4 composite rating, 2 5-stars, 10 4-stars, and 1 3-star. Now, Georgia's always done a very good job on recruiting. We've seen it with Malachi Starks, a star safety, came out, played great year one. You see it with what they've been able to develop on the defensive line with Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Marvin Jones Jr. before he left. What Kirby's been able to find defensively has been amazing. Their secondary has been great. Kilo Ringo, Malachi Starks, Tyke Smith, Javon Bowler, Cam Lassiter. Let's see, who else has been through there? Campbell, Eric Stokes. There's been so many pieces that have came through the University of Georgia that are now NFL caliber guys that Kirby has been able to find, and not all of them has been 5-stars. There's been 4-stars in the mix. There's been 3-stars in the mix. There's been walk-ons that have become stars on the college level under Kirby's coaching. Kirby knows how to find players. He knows how to find stars. So with us losing so much talent to the NFL, or people transferring out, like we're going to talk about transfer portal here in a minute, a lot of people will be concerned about that, but not at Georgia. There's not really too many concerns because you're going to find stars somewhere, even if it's bringing stars from another school, or you're finding new high school recruits to bring in, or you're hitting some JUCO guys up. Georgia's going to find those players. They're going to replace the players. They do it better than anybody else in the country. You're never going to have to worry. As long as Kirby Smart is the head coach of the University of Georgia, you're never going to have to worry about a bad recruiting class. Now, you kind of flip side that. The transfer portal. It's a big part of the new day college football. A lot of that is because of NIL. With NIL, you're able to basically pay and play. You can go, all right, man, you're a 5-star athlete. You're phenomenal. Here's $2.3 million to come play for my school. Forget USC, forget Bama. Here's $2.3 million, and now you buying players to come play. Now, like I said, I'm not going to say there's anything wrong about that. I've probably talked about it in the past, but I'm not going to say there's anything wrong about that because the game's going to evolve. I mean, the game's been around forever. You have to evolve if you're going to improve. But I think the transfer portal is something that it's going to hurt us longevity-wise if we don't start utilizing it more. Now, I will say probably the average amount of players that transfer out every year from a given school will probably be around 20. Now, this year I think is probably a little bit of a heavier year with us losing 24 players because of what they brung us on our team. As you know, I was saying the recruiting class, I'm not worried about us replacing players. But at the same time, I mean, it is a little concerning when you have to replace Marvin Jones Jr. I mean, you done lost Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Zai Lounge. Can't believe I said Lounge. You done Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Lounge, Nolan Smith. I mean, these guys that were your defensive line for so long. You lost a couple to the portal last year with Bear, and now you're losing Marvin, the FSU. Your defensive line wasn't like it was in 2021 when you had Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith just completely causing chaos, having 10 points a game, one of the best defenses in college football history. Goes on in 2022, have a similar year, not as good as numbers, but still very great numbers compared to the rest of the college football landscape. And then you go into 2023, I will say the defense in 2023 was a little bit on the downside. And that defensive line did not look like the similar 2021 and 2022 defensive line. But Marvin Jones Jr. was kind of giving you that anchor piece on that defensive line. And now that he's gone, you have to now make sure you can find yourself an anchor piece for that defensive line. I think they're going to be able to do it. Georgia always finds a way to find someone to kind of take over that defensive line. And they have ton of depth at that defensive line spot, because when Davis and Carter wasn't playing, you had Stackhouse, you had Bear, you had Lounge that was backups that didn't get no playtime yet, because you had two guys that were so dominant for the first couple years, and then Carter stayed, and they didn't really have an opportunity. So I am worried that we lost Marvin, but I think they can recover because they are so good at recruiting. They kind of counteract how bad of a transfer portal class they get to how great of a recruiting class that they bring in. Because if you look at the transfer portal, and this year in 2024, they bring in 11 commits, 4 of them being 6 stars, 3 3-stars, but they lost 24, 10 defensively, 14 offensively. And like I said, Marvin Jones Jr. is kind of leading the pack of the guys that left. Tyler Williams, a 4-star receiver, someone else that left. A.J. Harris, another key piece of our defense, left. Now, A.J. has not really had a significant role on the team yet. I think this year would have been the year that he could have had that opportunity, with us losing Lassiter, Smith, Bullard, and keeping Malachi Starks. We kind of need to find the rest of that secondary. We lose A.J. Harris, but we're also bringing in a ton of guys. I think one of the best guys we're bringing in is Elias Robinson, the 5th or the 4th, not the 5th, the 4th. I'm bad with Roman noodles, man. I'm bad with those. When I first seen his name, I called him the 5th because I'm really bad with the I and the V. I was never really good with those numbers. But Elias Robinson, cornerback out of IMG, 6'1", 185. He has a really big possibility of being a day one starter because of what we're lacking in the secondary. You've seen it with Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks came out and showed out day one against Oregon. Robertson has the same opportunity, and all the talk around him since G-Day has been that he is going to start in that secondary. I wouldn't be surprised when I seen Robertson and I watched some of his film, seeing what he can do in high school. I knew bringing him over would be very beneficial, and him and Stark will probably make one of the best 1-2 combos in the secondary. My biggest concern, though, is the linebacker spot. Sorey Jr., 4-star linebacker that transferred out. We at University of Georgia, I think one of the weakest spots that we are in is our linebacking position. I think when it comes to linebackers, we're probably one of the weaker in the conference. And when I talk about this linebacking group, I always kind of go back to that Alabama game in the SEC championship last year. And I talked to a lot of my buddies and a lot of my buddies that play, and a couple players people that I know that coach. We're talking about that Alabama Georgia game because it gets on my nerves, man. It just gets under my skin because as a coach, watching that game, seeing the linebackers completely just, I don't know really how to say it. So in that game, like C.J. Allen, for example, Isaiah Bond will come through, drag route, whip route, or whatever, a slant, whatever it is, but it's no more than 10 yards. Everything Isaiah Bond's running is within 10 yards and under. He's kind of right there at the line of scrimmage. Here, he's in the linebacker zone unless he's running like a whip route and then he's running to the hard flats with the corner sitting or something like that. But just speaking about this concept, Isaiah Bond was going through the zones. The linebackers at Georgia could not do anything to stop it. They couldn't misdirect. They couldn't hit him. cause a breakup. Isaiah Bond had the middle of the field and did whatever he wanted. There was no tracking him down. There was no tracking the quarterback's eyes. There was no tracking the ball. I mean, once Isaiah broke into the middle of the field, it was like him putting on a dance performance, and he was just dusting us up. And he had a field day. And as a linebacker, you see a slot receiver come into your zone, it doesn't matter if he is 2 yards away from you or 5 yards away from you. The moment he reaches my vicinity, I'm going. I'm gone. I'm watching the quarterback's eyes, and if that guy is going to get the ball and he's in my area, he's in my zone, he's not going to get the ball. I'm going to have to be aware that I have his drag route coming into my zone, or I have a slant route coming in behind me. I have to be aware of both players' positionings. That's where it comes into watching film, so you can know what routes are being ran out of certain formations. That's why film is so important. I don't want to say these guys didn't watch film properly, but it didn't look like they did, because Isaiah Bond was having a field day as linebackers. And like I was telling a buddy of mine, in today's game, the traditional old style linebacker cannot work anymore. It is a no-go in today's game. In today's game, you're not going to see guys like Roquan Smith, I think, is on the back half of what we're going to see on a traditional linebacker and a more modern day linebacker. Like Roquan Smith will probably be, he's kind of in that borderline. Like, he was a very aggressive head hunting type linebacker in college, but at the same time, he also had the ability to play coverage similar to what Fred Warner does in the pros. Now, I will say Fred Warner is the better pro linebacker in coverage, and Roquan Smith is the more run support type guy. But you're not going to see those very heavy hitters, Ray Lewis type linebackers in today's game. It's evolving to more of a pass heavy front. And because it's evolving to a pass heavy front and your receivers are a lot faster, you got tight ends running 4.4s, you got tight ends running 4.45s, you got receivers, almost an entire receiving corps is running a 4.3 flat. You cannot have linebackers anymore running a 4.6, 4.7, barely pushing 4.5 and cannot cover. Today's game is requiring, and a lot of people are probably going to hit the comments after I just talked about the 40s, saying the 40s aren't important. I know they're not important, but it gives you a picture of what I'm talking about. These receivers are extremely fast, extremely quick, extremely agile. Same thing with the tight ends. And if your linebackers cannot keep up, I know as a coach, I'm about to tell my team to hit you in the middle every single time. I'm not worried about a post route. I'm not worried about a streak route. I'm not worried about a corner route. I noticed that your linebackers cannot cover. I'm going slant, drag, in, whip, misdirection. I am going to torch that 10-yard gap from where the line of scrimmage at to the 10-yard line all day long, because I realize your linebackers cannot cover that part of the field. And if your linebackers cannot cover in today's game, you're not going to be able to win championships. So everybody's on this hype train of, oh, Georgia's going to win. Georgia's going to the national championship. Georgia has the opportunity to win the SEC. Who's going to really beat Georgia? Alabama lost their head coach. Texas coming into a new conference. None of that matter if Georgia cannot find linebacker help. A lot of people are saying the secondary is their biggest weakness. The defensive line's probably their biggest weakness. But I will say the linebacker is their biggest weakness. In my opinion, the linebacker is probably one of the most important parts of the defense. Because yes, having a defensive line that can cause pressures is great. Having a secondary that can lock down is amazing. But when you have a secondary that can lock people down, you got a defensive line that can generate pressures, but you have one spot, two spot in the middle of that field, about 5 to 6 yards off the line of scrimmage, and they can't cover that little 10-yard gap with two guys. As a quarterback or a coach, I'm going to eat that alive. I'm going to tear it up, and I'm going to torch it. So linebackers, in my opinion, are the most important position, and I think that's the biggest concern that they have. Now, like I talk about Robinson filling in for them, they got another guy out of Oak Ridge, 6'2", 205, Justin Williams, plays linebacker. He could come in and service a lot of play time early on in the season. Now, how much play time he'll get early on is still to be, still to be shown, still to be talked about. The first game of the season is coming up against Clemson, which I'm about to get into that part of the video here in a minute. But Justin Williams can obviously fill in. Now, I know I use C.J. Allen as an example on what bad linebacker plays like. But C.J. Allen has improved, and he is going to be the workhorse of that defense. He is going to be the new leader of that defense, and I think he has the ability to do it. It's just last year he did not show it. He showed it at certain times, but he did not keep it consistent. And look, he was still young in play, hasn't have a whole lot of ball game experience. Last year he got a whole lot of it. And what I'm hoping is, like all Georgia players, once they experience how real the moments can be, they completely turn up and you see a new light and you see these guys play like you've never seen them play before. Now, like I did mention, they do play Clemson at the beginning of the season. So I think that's where CJ is really going to show his true colors, right? I think that is where you're going to see if that linebacking core and if CJ really improved or not. Now, August 31st is that game versus Clemson. They played at 12 p.m. I know I'm going to have that game on first thing bright and early. I'm not missing a single bit of that action. Now, talking about their schedule a little bit. They play Clemson. They got Tennessee Tech, Kentucky, Bama. Now, in the first 4 games, they already got 3 tough opponents. Now, a lot of people are going to sit there and go, well, Kentucky, they're Kentucky. They're not going to really show any problems. Look, anytime you got to go play on the road, especially play on the road in the SEC, it's going to be a tough task. You got to go play on the road anywhere, it's going to be a tough task. Now you're asking them to go play on the road at Kentucky, a team that already, at any given point, except for last year and maybe in 2021, Kentucky, I mean, we've beat them fairly easily, but you still can't sleep on Kentucky because they will wake up out of nowhere and try to put one on you. And plus, you're going to Kentucky. They have our backup quarterback in Brock Vandagriff. Brock's going to know what our defense looks like. He's had years behind our defense. Obviously, same thing goes for Georgia. Georgia's had years of watching Brock play. And I think because of both elements, and I like Brock Vandagriff as a quarterback, I think that matchup is going to be on the difficult side. Now, is it going to be highly difficult like a Bama or Texas game? No. But is it going to be somewhat difficult and could lead to an upset? Yeah, I see it. So back to the first game of the season. I think that Clemson game is going to be very, very important. And I emphasize very important because that game will kind of determine the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season. If we dominate Clemson, we're going to beat Tennessee Tech with no problems. We're going to beat Kentucky, no problems. We're going to beat Bama with a little bit of problem, but we will beat Bama. If we go into that Clemson game and we kind of show that we have some major weaknesses and we somewhat struggle in that first half against Clemson, now we do pull out the win. We'll beat Tennessee Tech. We'll beat Kentucky. I think Kentucky will end up being a lot closer than what it should have been if we struggle against Clemson. And then we'll go into Bama, and it'll be more of a 50-50 game than what I would actually say us winning. That Clemson game, and like another scenario, we lose. I think we'll beat Kentucky, but we'll lose to Bama. We'll go 3-1 in the first 4. The reason why I list those scenarios out is because that Clemson game, in my opinion, is probably the most important game of the season outside of the Bama and Texas. I even put it over the Bama game and right behind the Texas game because if, like I was saying, if our team plays very poorly, I don't think the confidence is going to be there and be ready for the Alabama team. And if Alabama can roll through the easy first 4 weeks of the season with a new head coach, I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on us. Now, go ahead and give you my schedule prediction. First 3 weeks, dubs. I don't, like I said, if we lose, that's where I can kind of see the upset from Kentucky. But at the end of the day, we beat Clemson, beat Tennessee Tech, beat Kentucky, go to Bama. This is a night game. It's going to be a tough game to play. But I think because of it being a new coaching year for Bama, Georgia's already kind of proven itself. They've had the same unit already together on offense. I think they're going to have a pretty tough time, but I can see them being Bama. They beat Auburn. They beat Mississippi State. They go to Texas Saturday, October 19th. I seen the S and I automatically said September. I can't read. I need to get some glasses. Anyways, I see them going into Texas Tech. Now, like I said, that's the only game of the year that I see them honestly losing. And I will talk about more of the reason why I think they're going to lose when I talk about Texas. But that's the one game of the year I think they're going to lose because I think there's too much on the plate for Texas. I think that's what's going to be the deciding factor is there's too much on the line for Texas to drop this game. And I think because I think it weighs more in Texas's favor to win than it does ours, Texas will win that game. We'll go on to beat Florida. We'll handle Ole Miss in a tight contest. I think this will probably be outside of the Bama and Texas game and possibly Kentucky. Ole Miss will actually be the tightest game we play all year. But we'll win at the end of the day. We'll beat Tennessee, beat UMass, beat Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech, kind of like Kentucky, I think can show a very, very likely chance of giving us an upset if we overlook them. If we overlook them in Haynes King, I think they could give us a run for our money. But Georgia does a very good job of not overlooking most of their opponents, unlike they did in the Alabama game and for the SEC championship. But I mean, that's here nor there. That will forever make me extremely mad. I will rant about that any given chance. It's just I've been through so many years of heartbreak with this team. 2017, every year after that, trying to face Georgia. Every year before that, trying to face Alabama. Every year before that, trying to beat Alabama. You know, Nick Saban retiring is probably one of the best days of my life. I mean, the man's great. Much respect for what he's been able to do at that level. But the day he retired was the best day of my life. As a Georgia fan, he is like your worst nightmare because it doesn't matter how good of a team you got, how good of a program you think you're building. Nick Saban knew how to kick you right. He knew how to kick you right in the right spot and keep you down. And he kept kicking you while you were down. It was one of the worst experiences ever. Being a Georgia sports fan, it's very tough, but I'm very glad Georgia's been able to pick it together and at least win 2 national championships back to back. So if we don't win another one for another year or 2 or 3, I'm okay with that because at least we got our revenge on Alabama, and we won our 2 natties. That's all that matters to me. But like always, y'all, please hit the comment section. Tell me what y'all think about what they're going to do this upcoming season. Subscribe, like, go check out my other social medias. I'm going to be more active on there come for the next couple days going up into the season. I'm going to really try to get this social media thing off the ground. So please check it all out. and I'll see y'all in the next video.